The road is quiet tonight. It's not the kind of quiet that feels empty. It's the kind of quiet that wraps around you like a wool blanket, shutting out the rest of the world. Your truck sits on the edge of a narrow dirt lane, its engine still warm beneath the hood, ticking softly as it cools. The mist drifts in low over the open fields, blurring the lines of fence posts and hedgerows. You lean back against the seat, feeling the familiar creak of the worn leather beneath your shoulders. The air smells of damp soil, old diesel, and the faint, almost sweet scent of hay carried from a nearby barn. Somewhere in the dark, a lone cricket keeps time with its steady rhythm. And far away, a farmhouse dog barks once, then falls silent again. This is 1944. The war is still raging, but tonight, it feels distant, a far-off hum you can almost forget. Out here, you are not on the front lines. You are not in the trenches. You are the one who keeps the front supplied, driving mile after mile along winding rural roads, carrying crates of food, barrels of fuel, and sometimes letters from home. You shift slightly in your seat. The leather gloves still on your hands from the day's drive. They're soft now from use, the seams shaped to your fingers after weeks of gripping the same steering wheel. Your boots are heavy on the truck's worn floorboards, the soles patterned with the faint dust of roads from 3 different towns. Breathe in slowly. The air here tastes different, less of gasoline and city smoke, more of grass, damp earth, and the distant hint of wood smoke from a stove. Breathe out, letting your shoulders drop. You can feel the slow, steady pulse of the night around you. The cab is your world now. Metal dashboard chipped and dented in places. A line of round dials that measure oil pressure, speed, and fuel. The soft sway of the keychain on the ignition, a tiny piece of leather you tied there yourself so you could find it in the dark. A folded paper map sits in the glove box, its edges worn and torn, the routes marked in pencil from all the trips before. You rest your hand on the steering wheel. The rim is cool now, but you can still remember the slight vibration of the road beneath your fingers from earlier today. Every bump, every turn, every shifting of the gears has a rhythm to it, one you've learned well. Outside, the night stretches endlessly. A pale sliver of moonlight lies across the hood of the truck, softening its lines, turning the metal a dull silver instead of army green. The headlights are off now, but you can still picture the cones of light they cast when you were moving, cutting through the mist, catching the glint of wet stones, revealing the shapes of trees and broken fences along the roadside. You are far from home. But here, in this cab, you feel a kind of belonging. The truck is your companion, your shield against the wind, your steady pace through the uncertainty of war. I'm here with you, in the passenger seat. I will guide you through this journey, through the slow turns of forgotten back roads, through the quiet stops by shadowed barns, through the rare and precious moments when the world feels still. Sometimes I'll speak, telling you about the history, the role of drivers like you in keeping armies alive. And sometimes I'll let the silence between us speak for itself. Take a slow breath now, in through your nose, and let it out gently. Picture your hands resting loosely on the wheel, your eyes half closed as you listen to the hum of the countryside. Imagine the gentle groan of the truck's suspension as it shifts slightly with the wind. Imagine the faint tap of a loose strap on the cargo in the back, not urgent, not loud, just part of the music of the night. The war is always there in the distance. But here, in this moment, you are surrounded only by the softer side of the road. You've learned to appreciate these rare pauses, when the noise fades and you can hear your own breathing, steady and calm. The stars are faint tonight. The mist sees to that. But you know they're above you, scattered across the black sky. You've driven under them many nights before, using them as a kind of quiet guide when the roads feel endless. Sometimes in the stillness between towns. You've switched off your headlights for just a moment. letting the darkness close in so you could see the stars in all their sharp, unblinking beauty. You remember the sound of the engine idling in those moments, a deep, steady thrum that felt like the heartbeat of the truck itself, a sound that has come to mean safety, reliability, and the promise that you'll make it to the next stop. Your eyelids grow a little heavier now, not from tiredness alone, but from the rhythm of the night. Out here, the pace is slower. There is no rush. Every mile will be driven, every delivery made, but there is no reason to hurry. In the glove compartment, beneath the folded map, you keep a small notebook. Its pages are filled with short notes about the road where the ground gets soft after rain, which bridges rattle under the weight of the truck, which crossroads have the best view of the fields at sunrise. It's not just a log of routes. It's a record of a life lived on the road, 1 mile at a time. The night deepens. The mist thickens, curling around the truck like a living thing, softening the edges of the world outside. You shift again in your seat, pulling your jacket a little tighter. The canvas roof flutters gently, and somewhere in the back, the cargo straps creak as they settle into place. You think about the road ahead, not in detail, not with urgency, just in the simple way of someone who knows the journey will unfold when it needs to. There will be long, straight stretches where the tires hum in a steady line. There will be sharp turns through villages where shuttered windows watch you pass. There will be moments when the fog clears, revealing hills rolling out under the pale light of dawn. But for now, there is only this moment. The quiet, the breath, the slow tick of the cooling engine. Let it all sink in. You are here, in the cab of a World War II transport truck, somewhere on a lonely road in France. The world is vast, the war is distant, and the night is yours. The night holds steady around you, a soft weight pressing down from the mist-heavy sky. From where you sit, the truck feels like its own small island, floating in a quiet sea of darkness. The war may have maps and front lines, but for you, the road is your battlefield, though tonight there are no enemies here. Just the patient stillness of a world waiting for morning. Your hands rest in your lap now, fingers loosening in the warm leather gloves. Every driver in the service learns to treasure these moments, the minutes stolen between trips, the pauses before another long stretch of road. It's not idleness. It's a kind of careful rest, like a deep breath before another mile. I sit beside you in the passenger seat, speaking softly, my words blending into the low hum of the night. Do you know, I say, that more than half of the supplies that reached the front lines in Europe came by trucks just like this one. The generals drew their plans, the soldiers held the lines, but the trucks kept them alive. Every bullet, every ration tin, every drop of fuel had to be carried. You nod slightly, your eyes tracing the dim outlines of the dashboard. Some drivers, I continue, called it the lifeline. Others just called it the grind. It meant long nights, narrow roads, and the constant knowledge that somewhere out there, the war was moving forward and you were part of it, even without a rifle in your hand. The cab smells faintly of oil and canvas. The seats, though worn, hold the faint warmth from the day's driving. Outside, the mist clings to every surface, the hood, the mirrors, even the rope that holds the back flap tight. When the wind stirs, droplets slide down in tiny silver lines. Catching what little light there is, you reach over and tap the face of the fuel gauge, watching the needle quiver before settling again, just under half a tank. Enough to get you to the next depot, though you'll have to think about refueling after that. In wartime, fuel isn't something you waste. Every gallon is planned for, signed for, and accounted for. The world outside the truck is muffled, as if wrapped in cotton. Even the sounds carried differently, the quiet drip from the edge of the canvas roof, the faint creak of metal as the wind leans against the truck's side, the almost imperceptible scurry of a small animal in the roadside grass. You adjust your cap, feeling the rough weave of the fabric under your fingers. Caps like these have been worn by hundreds of drivers across the convoys, an unspoken badge of the road. Not polished, not ceremonial, just functional. That's the nature of the work. When people think of war, they imagine noise, gunfire, explosions, shouting. But for a truck driver, there is as much silence as sound. Long hours where the only noise is the rumble of the engine and the shifting of cargo in the back. Sometimes you hum a tune. Sometimes you let the sound of the tires over gravel be your only company. And sometimes, like now, you just sit, letting the quiet soak in. You rest one boot against the edge of the pedals, the sole worn smooth in places from weeks of driving. The uniform trousers bunch slightly at your knee, the fabric stiff from being washed in cold water and hung to dry in damp air. Somewhere along the seam, a tiny tear has begun, but you haven't bothered to mend it yet. Out here, small things like that wait their turn. From the corner of your eye, you notice the glint of metal from the side mirror. In daylight, you'd see the road behind you stretching away into the countryside, the tire marks, ruts carved deep from convoys that passed before. But tonight, the mist swallows it whole. You could be anywhere. That's one of the strange comforts of the road at night. It erases location, leaving only the here and now. I speak again, quietly, almost like a thought you've been having yourself. These trucks, they weren't built for comfort. No heaters in winter, no air conditioning in summer. Just you, the machine, and the miles. But drivers found ways to make them feel like their own, a folded blanket under the seat, a tin cup tucked in the corner, a photograph taped to the dash. Little reminders of home, even if home felt far away. You let the words sink in, remembering your own small comforts. The notebook in the glove compartment. The pencil stub in your pocket. The way you keep the same route marked with a faint line. Even when you could drive it from memory, you shift slightly, stretching one leg, feeling the slow, easy pull of tired muscles. The road does that to you, not the sudden exhaustion of hard labor, but the steady ache of sitting, steering, concentrating, hour after hour. It seeps into your shoulders, your lower back, your eyes. That's why moments like this, when you can let your body rest, are worth more than gold. A light breeze pushes the mist aside for a moment, revealing the faint glow of a farmhouse window far across the field. It flickers faintly, as if someone inside has just fed a fire. You imagine them a family, maybe, or just one old man keeping watch. The war touches every home in different ways. But for a moment, you let yourself believe that somewhere, there's still warmth and safety by a hearth. The wind shifts again, carrying a faint sound, the low, distant rumble of another engine. Somewhere down the road, maybe a mile or more, another truck is moving. You can't see it, but you know the sound. The war has given you an ear for engines, the tone of a loaded truck climbing a hill, the whine of a smaller vehicle moving fast, the steady thrum of a convoy on level ground. Don't you think about how many drivers are out there tonight, scattered across the map? Some running in long lines of trucks, others alone like you, all carrying something that matters. Even if the people at the front never know their names. Inside the cab, the air is cool but dry. You pull your jacket tighter around you, the fabric stiff but warm. Your fingers rest against the wheel again, feeling the grooves worn by countless hands before yours. These trucks have been passed from one driver to another, repaired in muddy fields, patched with whatever could be found. They are machines, yes, but also companions on the road. The mist thickens once more, softening the edges of the world. You let your breathing fall into rhythm with it, slow, steady, unhurried. Inhale, hold. Exhale, the war can wait. The road can wait. For now, you are just here, in this cab. with the night holding you gently in place. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the quiet seep into every part of you. The seat beneath you feels solid and grounding. The faint scent of oil and canvas familiar. The distant sounds of the countryside wrapping around you like a slow-moving river. When you open your eyes again, nothing has changed, and that's exactly how you like it. Focus. Early dawn, setting the time period. Introducing the truck, and first sensory impressions of the road. The night still holds its quiet breath. As you awaken in the small canvas tent set up near the edge of a field, somewhere far off, you hear the faint, low hum of another engine starting, perhaps another driver on an early run. But here, in your little pocket of stillness, the world feels suspended in time. You sit up slowly, not rushing. Outside, the pre-dawn air is cool, a gentle bite that seeps into your cheeks and nose. It is a peaceful kind of chill. It's a kind that makes every breath feel crisp and clean. It's the summer of 1944. Europe is in the thick of the Second World War. But here, in the countryside away from the front, there is a fragile calm. The war is still real. You've heard the distant artillery, seen the planes cross overhead, but this morning, it feels far away. You step outside and the world greets you with a soft, bluish haze of early light. The sky is not yet colored with sunrise, but a faint pale rim along the horizon promises it's on its way. In the field, long grasses sway with the early breeze, their tips heavy with dew. The scent of wet soil and green stems fills the air. There it is, your truck. A U.S. Army 2.5-ton cargo truck, standing patiently like a faithful companion. Its olive drab paint is dulled from miles of use, the metal carrying that familiar scent of engine oil, warm rubber, and dust from yesterday's road. The big round headlights are dark for now, but soon they'll glow a soft yellow against the lingering mist. You run a hand over the cool metal of the door. This truck is more than just a machine. It's your lifeline, your partner in countless journeys. You know every sound it makes, every quirk it hides. You know the second gear prefers a firm hand, the way the brake pedal sighs when pressed slowly, the gentle rattle of the glove compartment latch that never quite stays closed. I speak softly beside you. Most people imagine war as only noise and chaos. But for drivers like you, it's the steady rhythm of tires on the road, the hum of the engine, and long stretches of quiet between towns. You open the heavy door and climb into the cab. The worn seat gives a small creak under your weight, the canvas cushion molded to your shape from months of driving. The steering wheel feels large in your hands, smooth in some spots, faintly textured in others. On the dash, the fuel gauge rests just above half, enough for the first leg of today's run. Behind you, the canvas-covered bed is neatly loaded. Wooden crates are stacked in even rows, lashed down with thick rope to keep them from shifting. Each crate is stenciled with black letters. Some hold food supplies like flour and coffee, others contain spare engine parts, and a few bear the unmistakable Red Cross, marking them as medical shipments. For now, the engine is silent, but you can almost hear it in your mind. The deep, steady rumble that becomes the soundtrack to your days. You take a moment just to sit in the still cab and breathe. The open window lets in the smell of damp fields and faint wood smoke from a distant farmhouse. Somewhere nearby, a rooster calls, not urgently, but in that lazy, drawn-out way that marks the slow start of rural mornings. When you turn the key and press the starter, the truck answers with a low, deliberate growl. The vibration hums gently through the seat and floor, as if it's waking with you. A puff of exhaust drifts from the pipe, carrying that familiar diesel temps. The first stretch of road ahead is a narrow lane bordered by low stone walls. Some stones are covered in moss, others chipped and weathered by decades of wind and rain. The surface is mostly gravel, pale in the dim light, with the occasional glint of moisture where dew has settled. Every bump and dip in the road is one you've felt before. Part of a map your hands and feet remember instinctively on either side. The countryside stretches into soft shapes, dark outlines of hedgerows, gentle slopes of farmland, clusters of trees huddled together. The mist lies low, thick in the hollows and thin along the ridges, shifting in delicate swirls as the breeze moves through. Driving in the early hours is different from any other time. The road feels like it belongs to you alone, the quiet, broken only by the steady purr of the engine and the occasional call of a bird hidden somewhere in the hedges. I tell you gently, this time of day is a gift. Out here, before the town's wake, you can almost forget the war. You can just be a driver on the road with the day stretching quietly ahead. You guide the truck along a slow curve, tires crunching softly over the gravel. Your eyes catch movement in the field, a small hare, ears high, bounding once before disappearing into the mist. It's a brief, simple moment, but it stays with you. The air through the window carries layers of scent, the earthy dampness of soil, the sweetness of cut hay from a nearby field, and the faint temps of the truck's warm engine. Each breath feels grounding, tethering you to this moment. The first mile passes without hurry. You've learned that in this line of work, patience is as important as speed. Roads can change without warning. A tree fallen in the night, a bridge weakened by weeks of rain, or a convoy crossing ahead. Moving steadily and surely is what gets you and your cargo safely to the next post. Somewhere in the distance, you hear the faint clink of cowbells, and soon after, a small herd appears in the pasture beside the road. A lone farmer stands by the fence, watching them with a quiet, practiced eye. He doesn't wave, but his gaze follows your truck until you're out of sight. The sky above is beginning to pale, the first blush of dawn painting a soft gradient from deep blue to gentle silver. It's the kind of sky that promises a clear, warm day ahead. You settle into the rhythm of the drive engine, tires, road, breath. Out here, away from the cities, it's easy to feel the land's history under your wheels. These roads have carried carts and horses for centuries before the war brought trucks like yours. They will still be here long after. The next stretch opens into a view of rolling fields, dotted with haystacks and bordered by lines of poplar trees. Their tall, narrow shapes stand like watchful sentries in the early light. A gentle wind moves through their leaves, making a sound like distant rain. In moments like this, you realize that your work is more than just moving crates from one place to another. You're a link in a chain that stretches across miles and days, a quiet but vital part of keeping others going. The mist shifts again, revealing the faint silhouette of a small village ahead. The sight of rooftops against the lightening sky tells you that the first leg of the morning is almost over. But for now, you just keep driving, letting the steady hum of the truck carry you deeper into the day's journey. Focus, entering the village, seeing civilian life under wartime conditions. Interacting with locals briefly, maintaining the calm. Two-way narration style. The road narrows as it approaches the village, curving gently between more low stone walls. A thin ribbon of smoke rises from a distant chimney, carried sideways by the morning breeze. The mist has lifted just enough to reveal the cluster of houses ahead, their rooftops still dark with dew. Their shapes softened by the pale light of dawn. You ease back on the throttle, letting the truck's weight carry it forward in a slow roll. The engine hum lowers, blending with the soft crunch of tires over the gravel. I speak quietly. We'll take it slow here. Villages are like living things at this hour, waking, stretching, finding their breath. The first buildings you pass are simple stone cottages, each with small front gardens edged by low wooden fences. The flowers in those gardens are humble now, marigolds, lavender. A few late-blooming roses, but they hold their color stubbornly, as if refusing to surrender to the war's gray shadow. A cart stands in one front yard. its wooden wheels still damp from the night air. Beside it, a pair of chickens scratch at the earth, feathers puffed against the coolness. The faint, rhythmic toke-toke of their beaks is just audible through the truck's open window. You shift into a lower gear as the lane bends and enters the main street. Here, the ground changes from gravel to worn cobblestones. The sound beneath your tires changes to a muted, rolling clatter that echoes gently between the narrow rows of houses. A shopkeeper is just opening his small storefront, propping the door open with a brick. His shop window displays little more than a few tins of biscuits, some jars of pickled vegetables, and a basket of apples that still glisten faintly from the morning dew. He glances up as you pass, his eyes lingering on the U.S. Army star painted on the side of your truck. There's no hostility there. It's quiet curiosity and perhaps a small measure of relief. I murmur, for many here seeing that star means supplies. It means the war might feel a little farther away for a day or two, farther along. A woman in a faded blue dress sweeps her doorstep. The soft swish of the broom bristles keeping time with the slow beat of your engine. She looks up briefly and gives the faintest of nods. You nod back, a silent exchange of acknowledgement, nothing more, but enough. Children's voices drift in from somewhere, light, playful sounds, though you can't see them yet. As the truck moves on, you catch sight of them down a side alley. Two boys rolling a hoop along the cobblestones, their laughter sharp and clear against the morning stillness. The war hasn't taken their game from them. The street passes by a small stone church, with a bell tower that rises modestly above the rooftops. The bell itself is still, though a pair of swallows dart in and out of the tower's open arches. A few villagers make their way toward it, baskets on their arms, likely heading for the early market. Their shoes click softly on the cobbles, their steps unhurried in the square ahead. The cobblestones widen into an open space. At its center stands a stone fountain, its water still flowing despite the years and the strain of wartime. The sound of the water is gentle, steady, the kind of sound that could lull you into thinking the world beyond the square dozen. Tea exists at all. You bring the truck to a slow stop at the edge of the square. A few men, wearing flat caps and carrying heavy sacks, glance toward you, but keep walking. They know that drivers like you pass through often, part of a rhythm they've come to expect, even if they don't fully understand where the road ahead leads you. From here, the route will carry you out of the village and into open country again. But you don't rush. You take a few moments to simply look around, absorbing the scene, the pale sunlight finally touching the higher rooftops, the faint smell of baking bread drifting from somewhere unseen, the low murmur of villagers speaking in their own language as they go about their morning. I tell you softly, these are the moments the road gives you. Glimpses of lives still going on, despite everything. As you pull forward again, the road narrows to pass between two larger buildings, an old inn on one side, a grain warehouse on the other. The inn's windows are shuttered, except for one upstairs, where an elderly man leans out, his elbows resting on the sill. He watches you pass with the slow, steady gaze of someone who has seen many such convoys. Many such mornings. Beyond the last few houses, the land opens up again. Fields stretch out on either side, some tilled and planted, others left fallow, their soil dark and rich. A few lone trees stand here and there, their branches swaying lightly in the breeze. The sunlight is stronger now, touching the tops of hedges and glinting off the truck's rounded hood. You shift gears, feeling the truck gather itself for the open road. The sound of the cobblestones fades behind you, replaced once more by the soft crunch of gravel and the hum of the engine. Not far ahead, the road crosses a narrow bridge over a slow-moving stream. The water below reflects the pale morning sky, disturbed only by the occasional ripple from a fish or the drifting of a few fallen leaves. You glance down as you pass, taking in that fleeting mirror of calm before the road lifts again on the other side, The landscape here feels older somehow, not just in years, but in the weight of history. Low earth walls mark the edges of fields in uneven lines, some so ancient they're half claimed by grass and wildflowers. The air smells faintly of hay and something sweet, maybe clover. Maybe the faint trace of apple blossoms from an orchard you can't see yet. For miles now, the road will carry you through this quiet countryside. But already you can sense the change, the village behind you settling back into its own rhythm. Your own journey unfolding toward whatever lies ahead. The truck moves on. Steady and sure, its presence a quiet promise against the shifting backdrop of war. Out here, in this moment, it feels almost possible to believe that the road will keep stretching on forever, carrying you through fields and villages, under skies that change slowly with the day. Focus, rolling through open fields, seeing distant wartime signs. Crossing a checkpoint with quiet interactions, the road stretches out before you now. A pale ribbon winding gently between fields that seem to sway with the slow pulse of the morning breeze. You ease the truck into a steady rhythm, the low thrum of the engine settling into the background like a familiar heartbeat. On either side, the countryside opens wide. To the left, a field of tall grasses ripples like water, their seed heads catching the light with each shift of wind. To the right, a line of willow trees follows the path of a small stream, their long branches trailing almost to the ground. A few birds dart between them, quick flickers of motion in the calm. I speak quietly beside you. Out here, the war feels distant. The road almost makes you forget. For a time, you drive without meeting anyone at all. No carts, no other trucks, not even a stray farm dog trotting along the edge of the lane. It's just you, the hum of the engine, and the changing light of the morning. The sun has lifted higher now, washing the fields in a soft gold. A mile or two on, notice the first quiet reminder of what's beyond these peaceful stretches, a weathered signpost by the side of the road. Its wooden arm points in two directions, one toward the nearest town, the other toward a military depot. The lettering is worn, the paint faded, but the direction is clear enough as you pass. The truck's tires make a gentle crunch over a scattering of fallen twigs. The sound fades quickly behind you, swallowed by the stillness of the road ahead. Soon, the landscape changes again. The hedgerows grow higher, the trees closer to the road. Shadows dapple the truck's hood as the branches sway overhead. In those shifting patches of shade and sunlight, it feels almost as if you're passing through a long, slow breath of the earth itself. A bend in the road reveals a low wooden bridge. As you approach, you see two soldiers standing at its far end, rifles slung casually over their shoulders. They wear the same uniform as yours, though their sleeves are rolled up against the warming day. One raises a hand, not sharply, but with the easy authority of someone used to seeing drivers like you. You slow the truck to a crawl, letting the gears downshift with a soft, mechanical sigh. The soldiers step forward. The nearer one, tall, with a dusting of stubble on his chin, leans slightly toward your window. "Morning," says, his voice easy. You nod, offering the same dot. His eyes flick over the cab, then to the crates secured under the canvas in the back. He doesn't seem in a hurry. There's a brief exchange of words where you're headed, the supplies you're carrying, and then he steps back, waving you through. "You've got a long haul ahead," he says, almost as if it's a blessing rather than a warning. You guide the truck back onto the road, the bridge's wooden planks giving a muted thunk-thunk under the tires. On the other side, the land opens wide again, the air carrying a faint smell of wood smoke from somewhere distant. From here, the road rises gently toward a low ridge. As you crest it, the view spills out in a wide sweep. More fields, more hedgerows, a scattering of farmhouses. And farther still, the faint outline of military trucks parked in neat rows near a cluster of warehouses. They're too far to hear, too far to break the quiet, I tell you softly. This is the part of the road where you feel caught between two worlds, the calm of the countryside and the slow pull toward the front. You keep the truck steady, letting the miles pass at an unhurried pace. The shadows shorten as the morning deepens, the sun now warm against the cab's glass. A lone crow flies overhead, its wings catching the light before it disappears beyond the tree line. The road dips once more, carrying you down toward another cluster of trees. Somewhere beyond them lies your next stop, but for now, it's just you, the truck, and the road's quiet promise stretching forward. The sun has climbed higher now, laying a soft warmth over the open yard ahead. You guide the truck between two long rows of supply vehicles, their canvas tops billowing slightly in the morning breeze. The air here smells of canvas, diesel, and the faint trace of machine oil. It's not unpleasant. There's something reassuring about scents that belong to well-kept engines and steady work. Other drivers move about at an easy pace, their boots crunching on gravel as they speak in low voices. A few stand beside their vehicles, sipping from tin mugs of coffee. Somewhere near the depot's edge, you hear the rhythmic clang of a hammer striking metal, a mechanic working to coax a stubborn engine back to life. I step down from the cab with you, the wood of the running board creaking softly under our weight. The air feels calm here, but you can sense the undercurrent of purpose, the way people move with quiet efficiency. Each task a link in the chain that keeps supplies flowing forward. We make our way toward the loading area. Crates are stacked neatly in wooden rows, their stenciled markings telling quiet stories of their contents: medical kits, tinned food, replacement parts. A man with a clipboard cap pulled low over his brow glances up as we approach. His voice is low, unhurried, as he confirms our manifest. "You're headed north," he says. "Road's clear, but keep your eyes open." He waves over a small crew, and soon the sound of wooden crates meeting the truck bed fills the air. Each thunk is followed by the faint scuff of ropes being tied, knots pulled snug against the shifting weight of cargo. The smell of fresh-cut rope mingles with the diesel air. You lean lightly against the truck's side, watching as the final crate is secured beneath the canvas. The rope creaks softly as it's tightened. When we climb back into the cab, the seat feels warm from the sun's touch. The steering wheel is smooth beneath your hands, worn slightly from years of use. You press the clutch, the engine answering with its steady, familiar rumble. The yard's gate swings open slowly. Beyond it, the road bends toward the north, a ribbon of pale dust leading between fields and distant hills. You ease the truck forward, the tires crunching over the threshold, and the journey begins in earnest. The first few miles are easy, long, straight stretches where the air moves freely through the open side window. You pass a small farm where laundry flutters on a line, the white sheets lifting like sails in the wind. A woman pauses in her work, shading her eyes to watch the truck rumble past. You raise a hand in greeting, and she nods once before turning back to her baskets. I glance at you and speak quietly. There's something about this work. It makes the world feel both smaller and larger at the same time. The road ahead narrows slightly, dipping toward a stand of trees. The air cools as we enter their shade, the sound of the engine deepening in the enclosed space. Sunlight filters through leaves overhead, making patterns that shift and ripple across the dashboard at a bend in the road. You see another truck approaching from the opposite direction, its driver raising two fingers in a quick salute as it passes. The exchange is wordless but familiar. Like a nod between travelers on the same long road, as the miles pass, the landscape changes again. Here the fields are wider, the fences lower, and the air carries a faint tang of salt from the coast somewhere unseen. A small convoy of military jeeps overtakes us, their engines higher pitched, their drivers leaning slightly forward as if eager to reach their next stop. They leave a light cloud of dust in their wake, which drifts lazily in the warm air before settling back onto the road. We slow near a small crossroads, where a stone well stands under a chestnut tree. A pair of children sit nearby, their bare feet dusty, their eyes following the truck with quiet curiosity. One of them lifts a hand in a shy wave. You return it, your hand steady on the wheel. From here, the road stretches farther into the unknown, but there's no hurry. The convoy schedules are patient, the day's miles measured more in steady hours than in urgency. The journey unfolds like a long, slow breath, carrying you deeper into the living memory of this time. The road's gentle hum has a way of easing the mind. The steady rhythm of the tires on packed earth becomes almost like a heartbeat, measured and calm. You drive on, the wind lifting the edge of the canvas behind us, carrying with it the faint scent of the crate's wood, rope, and the salt of preserved rations up ahead. The horizon begins to shift. The flat openness gives way to a cluster of buildings, their rooftops breaking the skyline in uneven shapes. It's a small market town, the kind that seems to exist quietly, weathering the war in its own resilient way. The buildings are mostly stone and timber, their plaster walls sun-faded and patched in places. Yet they stand with a quiet dignity as we approach. The sounds begin to change, the dull thump of a wooden cartwheel over cobblestones, the low murmur of voices, the call of a vendor somewhere deeper within the streets. A faint aroma drifts toward us, fresh bread mixed with something sharper. Perhaps pickled vegetables. You slow the truck, easing it between the buildings. The road narrows here, the cobblestones making the tires hum in a softer, more uneven rhythm. On either side, shop fronts lean slightly toward the street, their painted signs faded by sun and rain. A small crowd moves between the stalls, baskets hanging from their arms. I lean slightly toward the window, watching a boy chase a chicken across the street, his laughter light against the steady background noise of trade. Two older men stand at the corner, their heads bent together in conversation. One glances up at the sound of our engine and gives a polite nod. You find a quiet stretch near the edge of the square and park. The engine's rumble fades into the town's softer sounds. Stepping down from the cab, the warmth of the sun is met by the cooler shade of nearby buildings. The air here carries layers, the smell of bread from a bakery just across the square, the earthy tang of vegetables piled high in baskets, and the faint metallic note of a blacksmith's work somewhere out of sight. We walk slowly toward the heart of the market. The stalls are arranged in a loose pattern, each one with its own scents and textures. A woman stands behind a table lined with cloth bags of dried beans, the colors ranging from pale cream to deep mahogany. She scoops a measure into a paper packet for an elderly man, our hands moving with practiced ease. Nearby, a vendor sells steaming mugs of chicory coffee, the scent warm and rich in the cool morning air. You accept one, the heat seeping into your fingers through the tin. The first sip is earthy, with just enough bitterness to sharpen the senses. The market isn't bustling in the way peacetime towns might be, but there's still a gentle energy here, people quietly continuing their lives, making exchanges, trading stories along with goods. A young soldier in uniform stands near a cart of apples, talking softly with the seller. His cap is tucked under his arm, his expression relaxed for the moment. We make our way to a stall selling smoked fish. The vendor, a tall man with a weathered face, wraps a small piece in paper for us. The smoky, salty aroma lingers in the air as we walk on. Somewhere nearby, a church bell tolls once a low, resonant sound that seems to hang in the air for a moment before fading. I glance toward you. It's strange, I say softly. Even with the war always just beyond the edge of things, life finds a way to fill these moments with normalcy. You nod, your eyes following a young girl as she arranges jars of honey in careful rows, each catching the sunlight in shades of gold. Eventually, we return to the truck. The engine coughs once before settling into its steady rhythm again. You guide it through the far side of the town, the buildings giving way once more to open road. Behind us, the market fades into the distance, its sounds and scents lingering only in memory. The road curves north again, leading us toward a low ridge. As we climb, the view opens wide, rolling fields dotted with grazing cattle, and far off, the faint glint of a river winding through the land. The light shifts, the sun now angling just enough to cast longer shadows along the road in the distance. A small convoy of trucks is visible, moving slowly in the same direction. You keep our pace steady, letting them remain a soft presence on the horizon. The air through the open window feels cooler now, carrying hints of damp earth and wild herbs crushed beneath the tires as the day stretches on. The miles blend into one another, each bend in the road leading to another scene of quiet resilience. Somewhere ahead lies the next stop. Perhaps a checkpoint or another small town, but for now, the road itself feels like its own world. We settle into that rhythm again, the hum of the engine, the slow roll of the tires, and the steady unfolding of a journey that feels both endless and timeless. The afternoon light grows softer, the sun lowering behind the ridge as the road slopes gently toward a valley. The air has shifted, cooler now, carrying the scent of water and damp soil. Somewhere ahead, the river waits, a thin silver ribbon, visible through breaks in the trees. Your hands rest steady on the worn wheel as the truck hums along. The sky is streaked with pale orange and muted pink, colors deepening with each passing minute. Out here, the quiet feels deeper. The only sounds, the engine's low note and the occasional creak of the wooden cargo bed behind us. As we round a bend, the river comes fully into view. Its surface glimmers in the fading light, reflecting the first hints of evening stars. The road runs parallel to the bank for a while, close enough that we can hear the slow movement of water against the stones. Willows lean over the edge, their long branches trailing like fingertips across the current. A faint glow appears ahead, small, warm circles of light floating in the dusk. As we approach, the shapes of sandbag barriers and wooden guard posts emerge from the shadows. It's a riverside checkpoint, one of many strung along the supply routes. The smell of wood smoke drifts across the road, carried from a small fire near the outpost. You slow the truck as we approach the line. A soldier in a heavy coat steps forward, his face illuminated by the orange flicker of a lantern hanging from a post. He raises a hand in greeting, his expression calm but alert. Evening has settled fully now, the daylight reduced to a soft afterglow on the horizon. The lantern light plays across the soldier's features as he checks our papers. His voice is low, the words carrying more warmth than authority. He gestures toward a narrow clearing near the river where a few other vehicles are parked, suggesting we rest before continuing into the night. We pull in beside another truck, its canvas sides darkened by the shadows. The driver, a broad-shouldered man with a weathered face, nods in quiet recognition before returning to the task of tying down his load. Somewhere nearby, water laps gently against the shore. The fire near the guard post crackles softly, sending thin threads of smoke into the cooling air. A few soldiers sit close to it, their boots stretched toward the warmth. Their conversation is muted, punctuated by the occasional low laugh. The smell of something cooking drifts toward us, perhaps potatoes and onions. Simple but comforting. You step down from the cab, stretching your back, and we walk slowly toward the water. The moon has risen now, pale and round, casting a silvery sheen over the rippling surface. In the distance, a train whistle echoes faintly, carried on the still air. "I've always liked these stops," I murmur. "They remind me that even in times like these, the world still holds these small pockets of peace." We linger there for a while, listening to the river's steady voice until the checkpoint commander gives a signal to move on. The convoy ahead has begun to roll out, their engines rumbling low in the night. You return to the cab. the seats still faintly warm from the day's sun, and guide the truck back onto the road. The headlights cut a narrow path through the darkness, illuminating the edges of the gravel and the occasional glint of metal from the road markers. Night driving is its own kind of world, slower, more contained, as if the road exists only in the space the headlights touch. Outside that narrow tunnel of light, the land becomes shapes and shadows. The details softened into something dreamlike. The hum of the engine blends with the steady crunch of gravel under the tires. From time to time, a night bird calls from the trees, its voice carrying briefly before fading back into the quiet. The smell of damp earth grows stronger as we pass through low-lying stretches, where mist curls in pale ribbons across the road in the passenger seat. I watch the way the dashboard lights paint your hands in a dim amber glow. The road signs pass slowly, their lettering muted in the half-light. Somewhere far off, the faint flicker of another convoy is visible, their taillights glowing like distant embers. We pass a small farmhouse set back from the road, one window lit by a single oil lamp. The light spills onto the porch, catching the curve of a rocking chair that sways gently in the breeze. It's the kind of scene that feels untouched by the wider world. At least for this moment, hours seem to pass in that soft, unhurried rhythm, the hum of the engine, the steady forward motion. The road unspooling like a quiet lullaby. The moon shifts overhead, dipping lower toward the tree line, while the stars take on a clearer, sharper light in the absence of city glow. Eventually, the convoy slows as we approach a fork in the road. A soldier stands near a small lantern, signaling us to the left. The turn leads to a stretch bordered by tall pines, their tops swaying gently in the night wind. The scent of resin and pine needles fills the cab, grounding us in this quiet, remote place. Not long after, we find a designated rest point, a small clearing just off the road. The other trucks park in a loose semicircle, engines ticking softly as they cool. Lanterns are hung from low branches, their light pooling gently on the ground. You switch off the ignition, and the sudden silence feels vast, almost weightless. The river is still faintly audible somewhere beyond the trees. Mingling with the distant rustle of leaves, we sit for a while in the cab, letting the stillness settle in. The air feels cooler now, edged with the crispness that comes just before dawn. Even though morning is still hours away, and in that quiet, with the hum of the day's miles still in your bones, it's easy to let the mind drift, to let the sound of the river, the flicker of the lanterns, and the soft breathing of the sleeping convoy ease you into the edge of dreams. Night driving is its own kind of world, slower, more contained, as if the road exists only in the space the headlights touch. Outside that narrow tunnel of light, the land becomes shapes and shadows. The details softened into something dreamlike. The hum of the engine blends with the steady crunch of gravel under the tires. From time to time, a night bird calls from the trees, its voice carrying briefly before fading back into the quiet. The smell of damp earth grows stronger as we pass through low-lying stretches, where mist curls in pale ribbons across the road in the passenger seat. I watch the way the dashboard lights paint your hands in a dim amber glow. The road signs pass slowly, their lettering muted in the half-light. Somewhere far off, the faint flicker of another convoy is visible, their taillights glowing like distant embers. We pass a small farmhouse set back from the road, one window lit by a single oil lamp. The light spills onto the porch, catching the curve of a rocking chair that sways gently in the breeze. It's the kind of scene that feels untouched by the wider world. At least for this moment, hours seem to pass in that soft, unhurried rhythm, the hum of the engine, the steady forward motion. The road unspooling like a quiet lullaby. The moon shifts overhead, dipping lower toward the tree line, while the stars take on a clearer, sharper light in the absence of city glow. Eventually, the convoy slows as we approach a fork in the road. A soldier stands near a small lantern, signaling us to the left. The turn leads to a stretch bordered by tall pines, their tops swaying gently in the night wind. The scent of resin and pine needles fills the cab, grounding us in this quiet, remote place. Not long after, we find a designated rest point, a small clearing just off the road. The other trucks park in a loose semicircle, engines ticking softly as they cool. Lanterns are hung from low branches, their light pooling gently on the ground. You switch off the ignition, and the sudden silence feels vast, almost weightless. The river is still faintly audible somewhere beyond the trees. Mingling with the distant rustle of leaves, we sit for a while in the cab, letting the stillness settle in. The air feels cooler now, edged with the crispness that comes just before dawn. Even though morning is still hours away, and in that quiet, with the hum of the day's miles still in your bones, it's easy to let the mind drift, to let the sound of the river, the flicker of the lanterns, and the soft breathing of the sleeping convoy ease you into the edge of dreams. The road is darker now, but not unfriendly. Your headlights stretch ahead in two pale cones, brushing over the gravel, hedgerows, and occasional stone markers by the roadside. The hum of the truck has softened into a low, steady purr, the kind of sound that almost disappears if you stop paying attention to it, blending into the rhythm of your breathing. Beside us, the open fields are silvered by the moonlight. The grass sways gently, casting wavering shadows that drift like ghostly tides. Somewhere far off, you can hear the faint creak of a barn door swinging on its hinges, a slow back and forth like the ticking of an ancient clock. This, I murmur, keeping my voice low, is the hour the roads belong to us alone. You glance toward the side mirror. Behind us, the ribbon of road fades into darkness. No other vehicles in sight. Ahead, the only sign of life is the flicker of a lantern swinging gently outside a farmhouse. For a moment, the glass catches the moonlight, and it looks almost like a star that has fallen to earth. We pass it without a sound, but for the whisper of tires. A thin stream cuts across the road a little further on, its surface reflecting your headlights like a broken mirror. You ease the truck over the shallow bridge, the tires giving off a muted thunk-thunk as we roll across the wooden planks. Beyond it, the landscape opens again. And I tell you a small story, one I heard from another driver weeks ago. Back near the Channel coast, I begin softly. They say there's a convoy route where the road runs so close to the shoreline that you can hear the waves even with the engine on. Drivers used to swear they could smell the salt before they saw the water. Some nights, they'd pull over for a moment, just to step out and let the sea wind cool their faces before moving on. You can almost picture it, the glint of moonlight on the water, the salt in the air, the quiet moment between deliveries in a world otherwise bound by schedules and orders. Here, though we are far inland and the night feels deeper, the moon rides high, casting a long silver sheen across the hood of the truck. Above it, the stars are sharp and countless, some so bright they seem to pulse faintly as you drive beneath them. The road narrows for a time, bending through a corridor of tall poplars whose leaves shiver faintly at the touch of the wind. The sound they make is like the soft rustle of old parchment, gentle, constant, almost like a voice too low to understand in the distance. You spot the dark outline of a small village. The houses huddle close together, roofs steep and windows dark, save for one, where the faintest amber glow seeps out into the street. As we pass, you can just make out a figure behind the glass, perhaps a baker. Up before dawn to prepare the first loaves, the village is silent otherwise, cobblestones clicking softly under the tires as we make our way through. You catch the scent of something faint and sweet, maybe from a kitchen, where someone has just banked the fire for the night, at the far end. The road widens again, and we're back among the fields. The darkness behind us and more miles ahead. I shift slightly in my seat, glancing up at the stars. Another hour or two, I say, my voice quiet. and we'll see the first light on the horizon. You keep the truck steady, letting the darkness and the hum of the road carry you forward, deeper into the heart of the night. The road dips gently, and ahead, the silver gleam of water begins to appear between the trees. At first, it's only a suggestion, a brighter patch of night that widens and brightens as we draw closer. Soon, the smell reaches you. Cool, damp, carrying the faint scent of reeds and slow-moving currents. The hum of the truck lowers as you ease your foot off the accelerator, letting gravity pull us down the slope toward the river. The sound changes here. The air feels denser, more present, and the constant thrum of the tires gains a soft echo as we roll onto the wooden approach to the bridge. It's an old structure, narrow and weathered, the kind that creaks quietly beneath the weight of a heavy vehicle. Our headlights spill across the planks, catching the faint gleam of moisture in the gaps between them. Beneath, the river moves with a slow determination, its surface rippling like satin stirred by a breath of wind. I keep my voice low, though speaking too loudly might disturb the moment. This river, I've crossed it a dozen times, always at night. They say, in summer, the water turns green with weeds, so thick you can barely see the bottom. But in winter, when the frost comes, it runs like glass under the moon. For a few seconds, the only sound is the clunk. Clunk, clunk of the planks beneath the tires, each one taking the weight of the truck in turn. The stars above are reflected in the water, trembling slightly with the current. Halfway across, you slow even further. There's no other traffic, no reason to hurry. The moonlight falls full across the hood of the truck, glinting off the metal edges. Somewhere downstream, a night bird gives a single call, a long, hollow note that fades almost as soon as it begins. Once we're over the bridge, the road curves upward again, the grade gentle but steady. You glance in the side mirror just in time to catch the river one last time, the moonlight cutting a pale path across its surface like a ribbon. I tell you another small truth of the road, one you've probably already guessed by now. When you drive through nights like these, hours start to lose their edges. Time doesn't feel like a straight line anymore. It's more like the river we just crossed, winding, moving, carrying you without you noticing the distance. The road levels out and fields open once more to either side. In the darkness, the land feels endless, as though it could carry on forever without change. Far to the left, you spot the faint silhouette of a barn roof, peaked. Walls squared, and next to it, a tall windmill whose blades turn lazily in the breeze. A little further on, you see an old milestone by the roadside. The numbers are worn down by weather, but you can still make them out. Distance to the next town, carved deep into the stone. The sight of it makes me think of the men who drove these same routes during the early years of the war. When fuel was scarcer and every mile felt heavier, we pass another farmhouse, this one with a low stone wall running alongside it. The gate is ajar, swinging slightly. In the yard beyond, two horses stand quietly, their breaths puffing into the cool air like faint clouds. The road bends once more, and the air changes again, fresher, carrying the scent of pine. The trees here are darker, thicker, rising on either side like pillars in a vast, silent hall. The truck's headlights pick out the details, the rough texture of bark, the scatter of needles on the ground, the glint of frost along the edges of the leaves. This forest stretch, I say softly, is the last quiet before the next village. It's not far now, you nod, settling back into the rhythm of the drive, letting the steady purr of the engine and the whisper of the wind through the pines carry you onward. The forest seems endless at first, each tree a shadowed sentinel standing guard over the road. The pines grow so tall their tops disappear into darkness, swaying just enough to make the starlight flicker between their branches. The air here is cooler, with a crispness that touches your cheeks and makes the breath you exhale look like a pale wisp in the dim light. The road narrows slightly, bending around old tree roots that have pushed the edges of the pavement into uneven ridges. Every so often, the headlights catch the pale gleam of frost clinging to the grass at the roadside. It crunches faintly beneath the tires, though the sound is quickly swallowed by the forest's deep stillness. I lean back in my seat, letting the hum of the engine fill the quiet between us. This road, I say softly, was laid before the war, when trucks like ours were rare out here. Now, it's one of the only routes the supply convoys can take without being seen from the air. That's why we drive mostly at night. You glance upward, instinctively scanning the darkness above the treetops. But tonight, there's only the comfort of stars, no distant drone of engines, no glimmer of searchlights. Just the peaceful night holding us in its stillness. Gradually, the forest begins to thin. The trees stand farther apart, letting silver moonlight spill across patches of frost-covered ground. You notice the faint change in the air, a warmer, more open feel, and then the first small sign of human life. A fence post, leaning slightly, wrapped in rusted wire. Beyond it, a small pasture stretches toward the slope of a hill. The truck's tires hum a little differently now, the sound sharper against the harder surface of cobbled stones. We've reached the old approach to the village. Ahead, a lantern swings gently from an iron hook, its yellow light pooling onto the cobbles in a soft circle. As we draw closer, the outlines of houses appear low. With steep roofs, their shingles silvered by frost. Chimneys rise into the night sky, some with the faintest thread of smoke curling upward. The scent of burning wood drifts faintly through the open vent, warm and comforting. I point to one of the houses. That one belonged to a baker before the war. Every time I pass, I remember the smell of bread rolling out into the street in the mornings. The ovens have been cold for a while now, but I like to think the place remembers. We pass under an old wooden archway marking the village's entrance. The sign above it is faded, its painted letters dulled by time and weather. But you can still trace their shape in the glow of the headlights. The main street is narrow, flanked by stone walls and shuttered windows. The lamps are few, but the moon does most of the work here, its pale light spilling over doorsteps, catching on the edges of rain barrels, glinting off the still surface of a water trough. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barks once, then falls silent. You slow the truck to a gentle crawl. There's no hurry, no one to pass us. The sound of our engine seems almost too loud for such a quiet place, so you feather the throttle. Letting us roll on momentum alone, we pass a small chapel at the corner, its bell tower rising modestly against the night sky. The bell itself is dark and still, but the shape of it holds a kind of promise. The thought that it might one day ring again when peace returns, just beyond the chapel. The road dips slightly and then opens into a small square. A fountain stands at its center, dry for the season, but edged with frost that sparkles faintly in the moonlight. A wooden bench sits beside it, worn smooth by years of use. I look around quietly before speaking again. This place is like a held breath, still waiting. Even in war, some corners of the world seem to sleep untouched. We leave the square behind and begin the slow climb toward the far edge of the village, where the road returns to open countryside. The sound of the truck settles into its steady rhythm once again, carrying us onward. The last houses of the village slip past the truck's windows, their silhouettes shrinking until they merge with the shadows behind us. Soon there is nothing but the open road again, its pale ribbon stretching ahead under the moonlight. The air feels different out here, broader, freer, carrying the faint scent of turned soil and cold grass. The farmland spreads out on both sides like a patchwork quilt, stitched together by hedgerows and low stone walls. Some fields are bare, their furrows dark and glistening under the frost, while others are covered in stubble from the last harvest. The moonlight catches on those pale stalks, making them shimmer like threads of silver. A faint mist has begun to gather in the hollows between the fields. It hangs low, swirling gently whenever a breeze passes, and the headlights make it glow softly, as though the road itself were leading us through a dream. The only sound is the quiet purr of the engine and the occasional gentle rattle from the cargo in the back. I lean slightly toward the windshield, eyes on the dark outline of the hills in the distance. These farmlands, I say, my voice low and even, used to feed half this region before the war. Wheat, rye, potatoes. All grown right here, where the soil is thick and rich. Now, some of the fields lie fallow. The men are gone, soldiers, drivers, mechanics. The women and the older men do what they can, but it's different. You picture them, figures moving slowly between rows, their hands raw from work, yet steady. There's no rush here, not at night. The land seems to breathe in its own rhythm. As if untouched by the urgency of war, we crest a gentle rise, and the view opens wider. Far ahead, a line of darker shadow marks a small copse of trees, and beyond that, faint glimmers of light. Not electric, but the warm, golden kind that only comes from oil lamps or candles. A farmhouse, perhaps, still awake. The truck hums steadily as we pass a wooden sign at the roadside. The paint is peeling, the name almost unreadable, but the shape of it tells me we're on the right road. The old supply route that's been in use since long before the fighting began. I let one hand rest lightly on the door, my gaze drifting upward. Above us, the stars are brighter now, free from the shadow of the village's roofs. The Milky Way stretches across the sky like a pale river, its light spilling down in soft, scattered drops. You can almost feel it settling over the fields, a quiet blessing in silver. Somewhere in the distance, the faintest sound of an owl reaches us low, measured and unhurried. I smile faintly. That's a barn owl. Farmers used to say they kept the spirits of the fields company at night. It's strange. Some say they're bad omens, but I've always thought they sound like guardians. The road curves gently, following the contour of the land. To the left, a wooden bridge crosses a narrow stream, its water catching the moonlight in brief, bright flashes between the reeds. We roll over it slowly, the boards creaking under our weight but holding steady. As they've done for decades, on the far side, the fields widen again. You notice the faint tracks of wagon wheels in the frost, heading toward a barn that leans slightly against the wind. Its doors are shut tight, but a faint glow seeps from the cracks. Someone inside is keeping watch, perhaps over livestock, perhaps simply over the night itself. As the road climbs again, the mist begins to thin. The air feels sharper here, carrying the faint smell of wood smoke from somewhere far ahead. I glance at you with a small nod. We'll stop for a moment before the next stretch. There's an old orchard just past the ridge. Good place to check the cargo and breathe a little. We keep moving, the rhythm of the engine steady and slow, the fields unfurling around us like a quiet sea under the stars. The road crests the ridge, and the land opens into a gentle slope that rolls down toward a cluster of dark shapes below. The orchard is quiet, its trees standing like patient sentinels in the moonlight, their bare branches stretching toward the stars. The air here is colder, touched with the faint sweetness of old fruit and damp earth. I ease the truck to the side of the road and let the engine idle for a moment before cutting it. The sudden stillness feels vast, as if the night itself has been waiting for us to listen. You step out onto the hard-packed ground, boots crunching faintly against frost. The silence is almost complete, broken only by the soft hiss of cooling metal from the truck's hood and the distant whisper of wind moving through the orchard's branches. Somewhere deeper among the trees, a lone leaf lets go, spiraling down with a dry, delicate sound before settling. I walk to the back of the truck and check the cargo straps. They're still firm, the boxes stacked neatly. The convoy will be glad to know everything is intact. These supplies, spare parts, blankets, tinned food, are the kind that make the road worth every cold mile as I work. I glance toward the far side of the orchard. Through a gap in the trees, the land dips toward another stretch of farmland. The dark shapes of hedgerows cutting across it in clean lines. Beyond that, a thin silver ribbon glimmers a river, catching the moonlight in soft, rippling flashes. I speak quietly so as not to disturb the moment. During the summer, this orchard would be heavy with apples and pears. The soldiers used to stop here just to rest in the shade and eat whatever fruit they could reach. In the war, these trees have fed more travelers than anyone could count, and yet, every winter they still stand here, patient, waiting. You tilt your head back, looking through the branches at the sky. The stars are scattered like small, deliberate brushstrokes on deep velvet. The Milky Way arcs overhead, so clear that for a moment it feels as though the road ahead might carry us right into it. We don't speak for a while. Instead, we simply breathe in the cold air, letting the stillness settle in our bones. Somewhere far away, the faint thrum of another vehicle echoes and fades. A reminder that we're not entirely alone on this route. Eventually, I climb back into the driver's seat, the leather creaking under my weight. You settle in beside me, pulling your coat tighter against the chill that has seeped in. I turn the key, and the engine hums to life once more, low and steady. The headlights sweep across the orchard, casting long, slanting shadows that retreat into the trees. We roll forward slowly, back onto the main road. The mist has thinned even further now, replaced by the faintest gray wash along the horizon, the first sign that dawn is not so far away. The night is loosening its hold, but it does so gently, as though reluctant to let go of its quiet. The road ahead curves toward the river. We'll cross it soon, the old stone bridge leading us toward the outskirts of the next town. Beyond that, the journey will continue, but for now, pace remains unhurried, the world around us still wrapped in its deep winter night calm. I glance at you and offer a small, tired smile. This is the best part of the job, I say softly. The hours when it feels like it's just us, the road, and the sky. No noise, no rush. Just steady miles and the knowledge that, somehow, we're getting there. The truck hums on, carrying us past the last of the orchard and back into the open fields. The stars still watching overhead, the frost still sparkling faintly along the roadside. The final stretch of night welcomes us, slow and sure, as we continue our quiet way forward. The river crossing lies behind us now, its water a dark ribbon under the stars. The bridge planks still echo faintly in my memory, each hollow thunk under the tires like the ticking of a slow, patient clock. The night is quiet in a way that feels almost sacred. Even the engine seems to hum more softly, as if it too knows we are entering the hours meant for quiet thought. Out here, between villages, the darkness settles like a blanket. Not heavy, not oppressive, but protective. The kind of darkness that keeps secrets. I glance out across the moonlit fields. They look calm now, but I know these same fields have seen very different nights. During the war, convoys rolled through here under strict blackout, headlights hooded. The only illumination from the occasional glint of moonlight on metal. Drivers leaned forward, eyes straining in the dimness, guiding their loads by memory and instinct. And always, there was that sense, unspoken but understood, that the road could change without warning. A crater, a fallen tree, a bridge gone in the night. Every mile was a question, every turn an answer you didn't always want. I tell you this in a voice just above a whisper, because it feels like the kind of truth best spoken softly. We pass a small stone marker at the roadside, the carved date half covered in moss. 1943. It leans slightly, as if time itself has been nudging it toward the earth. I've passed it dozens of times, yet tonight it catches my attention. I wonder who placed it there. A village council? A grieving family? Perhaps fellow drivers marking a spot where a convoy was lost. In the stillness, I imagine the scene as it must have been then. The trucks lined up, the muffled orders, the cold bite of winter air in soldiers' lungs. The sound of boots on frozen ground. Maybe laughter, too. Because even in the war, there were moments when someone cracked a joke to cut the tension. The war ended decades ago, but I sometimes think the road still remembers. Not in the way people remember, not with faces or names, but in the way a well-used tool remembers the hand that held it. The grooves worn smooth, the corners softened, the scars hidden but permanent. The truck's headlights sweep across an old barn as we round a bend. The roof is patched with tin, and ivy climbs the walls. Once, I was told that barn hid more than hay. Drivers would pull in under cover of night, offload crates of supplies meant for resistance fighters. A lantern hung in the east-facing window was the signal. One light meant safe, two meant danger. I keep my eyes on the road, but my mind drifts to the people who lived through those days. Farmers who plowed by day and smuggled food by night. Young mechanics who could take apart an engine in the dark and put it back together before sunrise. Men and women who never wore a uniform but carried the weight of the war all the same. A cool breeze slips in through the vent, carrying the faint scent of wet soil. Somewhere nearby, a stream gurgles over stones, unseen but steady. I let the sound fill the space between my words. Knowing the pauses are just as important as the telling. This road, I say softly, has carried more than just cargo. It has carried promises. And sometimes those promises were all anyone had to keep going. The hum of the engine returns as the primary sound. You keep your eyes forward, hands steady on the wheel, and for a long stretch, neither of us speaks. There is no need. The night, the truck, and the road say enough. The road feels softer now, the tires rolling with a low, even hum, as if they too have settled into thought. Out here, away from towns, the world becomes a ribbon of darkness bordered by the faintest glow of distant farmhouses. I tell you quietly that when you've driven long enough, especially in wartime, you start to remember the road less by the turns and more by the people you've met along it. There was Henry, a French mechanic with grease permanently embedded in his hands. He had a laugh that could fill a whole garage even when the situation was grim. Once, during a bitterly cold night, one of our trucks froze solid in a lay-by. While the rest of us huddled in the cab for warmth, Henry crawled underneath with a lantern, humming some old cafe song. Hours later, he emerged covered in soot and frost, but the engine roared back to life. He didn't say a word, just gave the fender a little pat as if it were a stubborn mule. Then there was Marta, a widow who ran a roadside inn in a half-ruined building. The sign out front had been blasted in two, but the kitchen still worked, and so did she. She served soup so hot it could chase the cold from your bones. And she never asked for payment from drivers who were moving military supplies. "Just bring me stories when you come back," she'd say. And we did. You nod slightly, eyes on the stretch of asphalt ahead. But I can see you're listening. The friendships formed on these roads were strange and fleeting. Sometimes you'd meet a fellow driver 3 nights in a row at different checkpoints, share cigarettes and black coffee under dim lanterns, and then never see them again. Maybe they were sent to another route. Maybe their luck ran out. We never asked too many questions. War teaches you not to. But the acts of kindness, those stayed with you. A farmer waving you in to refill your canteen from his well. A village child slipping you a handful of roasted chestnuts wrapped in cloth. A soldier on guard duty passing along news from home. Even if it wasn't your home, it felt like it mattered. The moon is higher now, pale and round, casting a silver sheen over the hedgerows. Shadows stretch across the road like long, thin ribbons. I slow my words, letting each memory breathe before I move to the next. Once, during a rainstorm that turned the road to soup. We found a young driver stranded with a blown tire. No spare, no tools. The rest of us pooled what we had. One man's jack, another's wrench, my last serviceable tire. We worked in silence, rain dripping from our noses, the headlights casting ghostly beams into the mist. When it was done, the young driver just stood there for a moment, looking at us like he couldn't quite believe strangers would stop. But on the road, you weren't strangers for long. I look over at you for a moment, my voice barely more than a murmur. That's the thing about this life, I say. You keep moving forward, but you carry the faces with you. They ride along whether you see them again or not. A faint smell of wood smoke drifts in from somewhere ahead. Maybe a farmhouse stove, maybe a campfire near the river. It makes me think of those long nights when we'd park in a line and share what little we had. Bread, coffee, sometimes a bottle of something stronger passed from hand to hand. Laughter was quieter in those moments, but no less real. And when morning came, the road was there again, waiting. Always waiting. The road stretches ahead like a strip of moonlit ribbon, but something about it feels different now. I glance at you and smile faintly. You can tell, I say. Even without looking at a map, you can feel when a war is ending. It's in the way the checkpoints thin out. The guards no longer wave you through with clipped urgency, but with weary nods, as though their own minds are already half at home. The convoys are fewer now, the cargo lighter, not crates of ammunition or rations stacked to the roof, but smaller loads, supplies for rebuilding, blankets and tools for villages that haven't seen either in years. And the sounds change. Where once the nights were filled with the distant thunder of artillery, now the loudest thing you hear is the wind curling around the cab. Sometimes, if you stop the truck and step outside, you can hear frogs in the ditches again, or a nightbird calling from the hedges. It's a strange thing, realizing how much you miss those small, ordinary sounds. I remember one morning, not long after word came that the fighting was nearly over. I was driving down a stretch of road near the border when I saw a group of children playing in the field beside it. Just playing. No one was hurting them inside. No one was shouting warnings. They had sticks and hoops, and their laughter rose into the air like something the world had almost forgotten how to make. I slowed the truck, just to watch for a moment. One of the boys noticed me and waved, grinning as though my dusty old vehicle was the most interesting thing he'd seen all week. I waved back, and in that instant I realized the road wasn't just for carrying supplies. It was for carrying hope back into places that had almost lost it. The landscapes began to change, too. Fields that had been left fallow were being plowed again. Windows in ruined farmhouses were patched with cloth or wood, and laundry hung outside like flags of defiance against the winter to come. Markets reopened, their stalls uneven, but filled with the smell of bread, cheese, and whatever fruit the season allowed. People began to greet drivers not just with the stiff gratitude of wartime, but with smiles that reached their eyes. You rest your head against the window, and I know the rhythm of the truck is working on you, easing you toward that space between waking and sleep. My words slow even further, the way a river slows before it joins the sea. I tell you about the last night I drove under blackout rules. No headlights, just the dimmed beams allowed for safety. The war was technically still on, but the road was quiet. I could hear my own breathing, the creak of the seat, the soft crunch of gravel under the tires. It was as though the land itself was holding its breath. When the blackout ended, it felt almost strange to switch the lights back on. The road ahead leaped into view, and with it came the realization that all those long, dark miles were behind us. And yet, part of me missed them. Missed the way the world felt pared down to just the truck, the road, and the next mile. Now, with the war drawing to a close, the roads were starting to feel heavier, somehow. Not from the cargo, but from the memories. Every bend, every bridge, every mile marker was tied to something: a conversation, a friend, a moment of fear or relief. I wondered what would happen to those memories when the road became just a road again. We pass another milestone. Its paint-chipped, numbers barely visible in the pale light. I tap it gently as we go by, a small salute to the many I've passed before. The war will end, I murmur. But the road always remembers. The truck hums steadily beneath us, a low and constant sound, like a heartbeat that has slowed after a long day. Outside, the sky is deepening into velvet blue, the last traces of daylight dissolving into the west. It feels as though the road itself is settling down, breathing slower, guiding us onward, not toward a destination, but into stillness. We pass through a small village, where only a handful of lights glow in windows. Some are the warm gold of kerosene lamps, others the softer, wavering flicker of candles. The war has left its marks here, walls pockmarked by shrapnel, roofs patched with mismatched tiles, but there's something else, too. A stubborn kind of peace. Curtains are drawn, meals are being finished. And somewhere, in one of those houses, a child is likely being told a story to help them sleep. The road curves gently, and the fields open wide. In the moonlight, the land seems endless. Faint mist clings to the furrows, curling like smoke, blurring the edges of the world. You lean back in your seat, eyes heavy. And I keep my voice low, letting the words come slowly, each one soft enough to carry you closer to sleep. I tell you about the first time I drove this route after the war had officially ended. The signs of change were subtle at first. More bicycles on the road, couples walking hand in hand without glancing over their shoulders. The smell of fresh paint in towns where repair crews had gotten to work. But there was one thing I'll never forget: the way the air felt. Lighter, as though some invisible weight had lifted. A burden no one had been able to name until it was gone. We drive on, and the truck's headlights catch the shapes of trees lining the roadside. Tall, still, ancient in their quiet watchfulness. They've seen everything: soldiers marching past, convoys rumbling through, and now, single truck carrying nothing more urgent than the echo of those years. The night deepens further. Stars scatter overhead, sharp and steady in the cold air. I remember how, during the war, I would look at these same stars from some darkened lay-by, wondering if someone far away, someone I loved, was looking at them too. And now, here they are again, unchanged, indifferent to the passing of time, but somehow comforting in their permanence. The road begins to narrow, drawing us into a tunnel of overhanging branches. The sound changes here, the engine's hum wrapped in the soft hiss of wind through leaves. The rhythm of it is hypnotic, steady as breathing. I imagine the road is cradling us, guiding us gently forward, away from the noise of history and into a place where memory rests. I speak less now, letting the quiet between my words grow longer. You're safe here, on this road, in this moment. There's no rush to reach the end. When the trees open again, we find ourselves on a ridge overlooking a broad valley. In the moonlight, the ribbon of road we've just traveled glints faintly, winding away into the distance. It looks endless from here, as if it could carry on forever, past the horizon, past time itself. I slowed the truck, letting it roll gently forward. The cab is warm, the seat beneath you soft, and outside. The world is wrapped in the kind of silence that only comes after a long journey. This is how it ends, I murmur. Not with a sudden stop, but with a quiet fading. The war behind us, the road ahead, and the night holding us in its arms. The hum of the engine becomes softer still, blending with the hush of the valley until the two are almost one sound. Your eyes close fully now, and somewhere in the darkness, the road carries on. The road has grown quiet now. The hum of the engine is little more than a memory, a faint vibration beneath us, slow, steady, soothing. Outside, the moonlight spreads across the land like a blanket of silver, softening the sharp edges of the world. We've traveled far together, through villages and fields, past rivers that whispered their own secrets, along roads that once carried the heavy weight of history. We've seen the shadows of war, but also the small, stubborn sparks of peace that refuse to be extinguished. And now, the journey is at its end. There is no urgency anymore. No destination we must reach. Only this moment. This quiet. This deep, still night. You lean back in the seat, your body sinking further into comfort. Every muscle unwinds, every thought slows. You are warm here, safe here. The air is cool and clean, scented faintly with pine from the trees we passed not long ago. Each breath feels deeper, slower, as though your lungs, too, have learned the rhythm of rest. I speak softly now, my voice just above a whisper, letting each word stretch out like a long exhale. The road is empty ahead of us. The stars are bright above, and all the sounds of the day have faded into silence. You are far from the noise of the world now, far from the worry and the weight you've been carrying. There is nothing to do but rest. The cab rocks gently with the rhythm of the truck. Your eyelids grow heavier. And still, I keep guiding you deeper, deeper into that space where dreams begin. Feel the heaviness in your legs, your arms, your hands. Your shoulders sink, releasing the last of their tension. Your jaw loosens. The muscles in your face soften. There's no effort now, only ease. Outside, the landscape has become dreamlike. The fields shimmer faintly in the moonlight, blurring into one another until it is hard to tell where one ends and another begins. It feels as though the whole world is wrapped in a gentle fog, a fog that carries you effortlessly toward sleep. I tell you about the first time I stopped driving at night after a long day on the road. Years ago, I pulled over by a meadow, lay back against the seat, and just listened. The air was so still that I could hear the faint rustle of grass far away. The stars looked close enough to touch. And in that moment, I realized something. The road never truly ends. It only changes form. In daylight, it is asphalt and dust and stone. At night, it becomes the pathway that carries you into your dreams. And so, we travel that road now. Not with wheels, not with maps, but with the slow, steady breath of someone finally letting go. Inhale, deeply, and release. Again. In and out. Feel the space between each breath growing longer. Feel the space inside you growing calmer. The seat beneath you holds your weight fully now. You do not need to hold yourself up. The truck moves as though it knows where to go. Each turn smooth, each mile effortless. It carries you not toward the next town, but toward the deepest, most peaceful part of yourself. You are drifting. The scenery outside changes slowly, softly. Sometimes it's a field under moonlight. Sometimes a narrow forest road where the branches form a canopy overhead. Sometimes it's just the open night sky, endless and deep. And every change, every curve, every mile, takes you further from waking and closer to rest. There's nothing left to do tonight. The journey is complete. The road fades. The world quiets. You are safe. And you are home. Your breaths are longer now. Your body feels heavy in the best way, as though gravity itself is tucking you in. I repeat the words slowly, like the steady ticking of a clock, lulling you into deeper stillness. You are safe. You are home. You are at peace. Each time the words return, they settle more deeply inside you, until they are no longer something you hear, but something you feel. The stars blur overhead as the night deepens. The road unwinds beneath us, but you don't notice anymore. You are half in dreams already, carried by the gentle hum of the truck and the steady rhythm of your own breath. And when you finally cross fully into sleep, it will be without effort, without thought, just the simple, quiet knowing that the journey is over, and you have arrived exactly where you need to be. If your mind drifts back for just a moment before the dreams take hold, you may hear me one last time, my voice low, almost fading into the night. If this journey brought you calm, if you found rest in these miles, then join me again. There are so many roads in history still to travel, so many nights still to share. Until then, sleep well, sleep deeply, and let the road carry you home. The hum fades, the stars fade, the world fades, and you sleep.